A 28-year-old man from Shaheda in Polokwane is facing charges of statutory rape and sexual grooming of a minor. He allegedly impregnated a 13-year-old girl who gave birth on Christmas Day. Joining us is Kevin Smith, a lawyer, and Dr. Shaheda Omar, who's the clinical director at Teddy Bear Clinic. A very good morning to you both, and thank you so much for joining us. Now, this is a very worrying issue. Kevin, I'll start with you, maybe by you just giving us the definition of what statutory rape is, what's the age of consent, and how are these ages determined?
So, by definition, statutory rape is the sexual act involving either an adolescent or a minor, and that would be someone under the age of 16 years old. So someone under that age cannot consent to sex or any sexual act of any nature whatsoever. However, there is a bit of a proviso there. So if two adolescents are performing consensual sex, and then there will not be a crime attached to that. But that would mean that there would be a 2-year buffer between them. So if one is 13 years old, the other one would have to be 15 years old, vice versa, right? Now, that would just mean that both parties would be adolescents and both parties would still be consenting. It doesn't mean that because both of them are adolescents, one could infringe upon the rights of the other. Now, to the extent that one of the parties is an adolescent and the other one is not, so one would be under the age of 16 and the other one is either 18, 20, whatever the case may be, that would be a crime in all instances, whether there is consent, whether it is voluntary, or whether they are in some form of a consensual relationship. It will always be a crime.
Sure, that's very interesting, and maybe we'll get to those numbers even with Dr. Omar in terms of even these ages, these limits. Should we extend them? Is it okay for a 13 and a 15-year-old to be in sexual activities and it's considered okay and no repercussions would happen there? But Dr. Omar, maybe to bring you into the conversation, I mean, with the recent statistics, there are 122,000 teenagers that gave birth in the last financial year. 2,700 of them are children between the ages of 10 and 14. Are we losing the battle against statutory rape? Because a lot of the fathers of these children are adults.
Indeed, I think that, a lot more research needs to be done in this area, because what we are focusing is child on child, children engaging in sexual abuse at a much younger age. And we tend to overlook or gloss over the fact that there are cases of incest, there are many cases of statutory rape, adult on child, which are not reported. And I think this is where the challenge is, because we cannot prevent this until we establish what the root causes are. Currently, as we speak, the Commission for Gender Equality, Section 27, the Department of Social Development, and the Teddy Bear Foundation are going to be embarking on more thorough and research around this to establish what the causes are, and to establish what needs to be done moving forward, because what we are facing is not the true picture. And I think that is something that we need to gather in order to address the scourge of violence against children. And I'm so pleased that you spoke about children and not teen pregnancies, because these are children birthing children under the age of 13, 12, 11, and even 10-year-olds that are giving birth to children, where they are being robbed of their childhood, being robbed of the opportunity of playing, of having fun, and their life actually just comes to an end at this point in their lives.
I mean, Dr. Omar, with this particular incident with the 13-year-old in Shaheda, said that she met the 28-year-old in a shopping complex. They started communicating, and thereafter they became intimate. Are we desensitized as adults in seeing children as children when a 28-year-old would even start a conversation with a 13-year-old in that way?
Well, I don't think we are desensitized. I think children are being abused, misused, exploited, and the vulnerability of children, because they are vulnerable and they are impressionable, they obviously fall prey to the victimizers, the sexual predators, who are so sophisticated in their modus operandi, luring children into their domain and making them believe that this is an intimate relationship, making the child believe, as you described, the grooming process, where the barriers are eroded and, the barriers to intimacy, and the child begins to feel that this is special attention, and of course, that this is somebody that really cares and wants to protect the child. So children often fall prey to these kind of circumstances because the sexual predators are seeking out children who are vulnerable.
Kevin, what are some of the... Yes, Doc, you may continue.
Okay. No, so, it's opportunistic. I think the predators are waiting out there to lure children. And the thing is that it's not about being desensitized. I think if we look at the whole advertising industry and how children are lured into this advertising realm of cars, cash, clothes, cell phones, cosmetics. So this is what predators also use to lure children in exchange for sexual favors.
Kevin, I just wanted to ask there with regards to maybe some of the challenges that the legal fraternity experiences in situations like this. I mean, Dr. Omar is then saying that these children are groomed. They are made to think that they are in a situation that actually is for them when it's not. And some parents have come out and said that when they want to report to the authorities, it's the very children that would come out and say, but I consented, we agreed to have a relationship. Legally, what are some of the challenges that come in when what supposedly is the victim then says, no, I'm not quite the victim in the situation?
Look, I'm glad you asked that question because one of the reasons why something like statutory rape even exists is so that the crime must exist whether or not we press charges against someone. So the fact that a child is pregnant proves the existence of a crime. In this situation, once the paternity of the child is then confirmed, whoever that father is should stand the might of the law, whether or not the child who is the victim and the mother in the situation, whether she agrees to that or not. And you are right, in the legal fraternity, we do have those challenges that victims do not want to press charges because at that stage they do not feel as though they are victims. But then parents, interested individuals, the community, they should take the forward step and ensure that these things do still happen. But on top of that, I think where we are currently as a society is that we have lost our innate nature of protecting women and children. And that's why we are having these situations become so prevalent. I mean, I'm glad yourself and Dr. Omar have mentioned the fact that these are children at the end of the day. The fact that they are bearing children just shows the state of our society and where it currently is. And outside of this being a sexual crime, we also need to understand the statistics of a child and a teenage mother. Them actually finishing school becomes slim to none. So we have now also jeopardized the education of this child. We've jeopardized their future. So my suggestion in these situations always is when we punish these types of crimes, we should add the element of that child's education and future being taken away so that we can make it even a harsher punishment. Because in society, we need to understand that it's not just about the sexual nature, which is egregious in itself, but it's also the future of this child being taken away. It's also the fact that her education is now going to be very much severely impacted. And the child that will be born will also now face socio-economic challenges. So we should harshen these sentences to make sure that as men in society, we understand we are not just taking advantage of someone, grooming them and making them a victim of sexual violence, but it's also the future of the country at stake. It's the future of that person's education and the community at large. So those things should become factors that aggravate and make these sentences much harsher.
You speak of harsher sentences. Do you then believe that there are legal reforms that are necessary in order to better protect minors?
In these societies, we need to understand that these things go deeper than just the legal reforms. There is the communal aspect. There's also what happens within the household. In this specific situation, we understand that the mother was facing socioeconomic difficulties. So these things exacerbate the situation. Like Dr. Omar was saying, the predators take advantage of what are the surrounding circumstances on any particular victim. Those things go deeper than just the law. So there are things that we need to do at a communal level to start assisting these children, at a communal level to assist their mothers, and also at a higher level to ensure that the socioeconomic difficulties facing our country don't lead to victims coming out at the end like we are seeing on a daily basis.
Dr. Omar, thank you so much, as well as Kevin. I mean, this is a very pertinent discussion that needs a lot more time, but I think more than anything, we do understand that it's our communities that need to reform. It's the values that we need to instill within our households in order to better protect our children and the communities at large. Thank you so much for joining us on this very heartbreaking conversation around statutory rape and age consent, given the situation of the 13-year-old Nseshego, who has now a child that was born on Christmas Day, with the father being a 28-year-old.